just hit record and he woke up. So we're gonna do this collab video together. Do you guys have your notebooks and pencils ready? Because it's time for another Makeup 101. And this Makeup 101 I think is extremely important because in order to successfully apply makeup, you need the right tools. And oftentimes the proper tools come in the form of your fingers. I know this other YouTuber here that literally applies all of her eyeshadow and does multiple looks, and she applies eyeshadow with her finger. So it's basically learning how to achieve the look you want with whatever tools you have. But some of you have already asked me multiple times, hey Danny, can you do a brush video? What brushes you use, what brands they are, where I can find them. You know, I like how you do your contour, I like how you do this. So I'm just gonna share with you guys the brushes that I think you should have in your collection if you really wanna get into makeup, and then brushes that are completely optional, and that if you're just wanting to achieve daily makeup looks, nothing extravagant. So the very first, the most important thing you should know is that there are two kinds of brushes. There's synthetic, fake, and then there's real hair. So the pros and the cons, there's not very many. It's basically which ones you prefer to use. If you're a professional, most professionals like to use real hair brushes because they're porous, and porous hair grips onto color, powders, pigments more, so it's easier to apply things. But it also wastes product because it absorbs it. So, I mean, it's kind of a toss-up. Synthetic brushes are slippery, the hairs, so powder doesn't stay on, which you probably would end up wasting more anyway because the product doesn't cling. I personally prefer synthetic brushes because they're easier to clean, they last longer. I think they're a little bit more sanitary, and they're cheaper. So that's just my personal preference. I like real hair brushes sometimes, but I have noticed they smell. So I know you guys are probably rolling your eyes, or my mom is at least, because I smell everything. But hey, if I'm gonna be using something on my face and it smells, I don't know, I think twice. So for example, my favorite blush brush is real hair and it smells like feet. But I love how it applies my blush, so I don't know, it's a toss-up. Some things are worth sacrificing. Other things, like blushes that smell like ass, not so much. So let's go ahead and get started. What are the must-have brushes on your brush list? The very first one is a big fluffy brush. Before I show you which brush I use, let me tell you this. Just because the packaging on the brush or the brush handle says, I am a brush for this, does not mean that you have to use it for that purpose. Remember, our faces are canvas, and whatever means we use to apply the paint, it doesn't matter as long as it looks great. So for me, being a clumsy lefty, and you know, my purpose of my setting powder or how I like to apply my makeup, I like to use the Real Techniques blush brush. This is my fluffy powder brush. So when I want to set my makeup, I use this one to set my powder. And this is a blush brush. I try to use it for blush, but I noticed the blush would just fly everywhere and get all over my face. So instead of having blush here, I had blush here. So you guys know how I feel about looking like a hooker. That wasn't working out for me. So this is my fluffy powder brush. The other must-have that you should have in your collection is a buffing brush or a foundation brush. Buffing brushes, I wasn't prepared. Buffing brushes and foundation brushes come in many different forms. So you have foundation brushes like this, which is a flat foundation brush. Let me bring you guys in closer because I don't think I'm showing you really well. So you have flat foundation brushes like this. This is like a paintbrush, so you paint on your foundation. I personally don't like these. Then you have buffing brushes to buff in your foundation and get a really nice smooth look. I personally don't like that. But If I do it, I use this one. This is the Real Techniques Expert Face Brush. Then I have this one, which is my little minion kabuki. This is the Air Buki by Tarte, and this is a really good buffing brush. So I haven't tried this with liquid foundation, but one of these days I'm gonna get brave and I'm gonna try it because I'm pretty sure it's amazing with it. But again, this is natural hair, so we'll see how that works. If you decide that you don't want to apply your foundation with a buffing brush, a foundation brush, a kabuki brush, your other option is always a cosmetic sponge, like the Beauty Blender. I took it away, can you tell? So a beauty blender, to me, if you're a pro, if you're a novice, if you're just getting into makeup, it's super easy to apply your foundation. It's basically foolproof and it gives you a flawless finish. So it's totally, completely worth the investment. So basically we talked about a big fluffy powder brush. We talked about a foundation brush, a buffing brush, or a sponge. You do not need all three. You need one of the three, but you want to find which one you're good at applying your foundation with. And then you have a blush brush. I told you guys, my blush brush smells like feet. It's this one, it's the MAC 129. I wash it, I take care of it properly, I dry it like this so that the water doesn't get in to this part. I think it's called the bevel or something like that. So I know it's not moldy, it's not falling apart, it doesn't shed on me, but it smells. It's real hair, so it smells. I mean, I can't help it. So what I do is I go, oh, just kidding. It doesn't smell that bad. I mean, it smells bad if you like stick your nose in it and smell it. So you need a blush brush. And blush brushes, it could be a contour brush, it could be a little brush, it could be a sponge, it could be whatever you use, whatever makes the blush look the way you want it to look on your face. For example, I just have long cheeks. I look like Bert on Sesame Street. I just have a long face. So I need to create dimension. So I want a brush that has the same size of the area that I want to look rosy. And this is the only one that has worked for me. So let's move on to optional brushes. If you wanted to get a good brush collection started, then these are optional. The first optional brush is a contour brush, and I have several. The first contour brush that I have is the Nars Eda Brush, ITA, and this is a rectangular brush, and it kind of just sets those lines on the sides of your face. And remember, if you're contouring, you contour from the top of your ear down to the middle of your cheek. And this one works perfectly well, but sometimes I don't want that chiseled drag queen contour. Sometimes I want a softer contour, and that's when I use the Real Techniques setting brush. This is a setting brush, but I use it for contour because it's soft and I can do a curve and make the illusion that I have like a popped cheek, like a really cute cheek. If you guys watch Tina Forever, she has her little YouTube channel here. She has the cutest, like fluffiest, meatiest cheeks. And so when I want to do that look, I do that little funny face and then I go around this area and I create that illusion with the setting brush. But of course, I don't want that really dramatic, muddy look. And so I blend it out with the Multitask Brush by Real Techniques. I kind of just soften the look. So this one really helps. All of these are optional. And then my last optional would be a highlighter brush, which is a fan brush. This one's pretty affordable. I think it's like $8. All of these brushes actually are very affordable. The only one that is expensive is I think the Nars one and the MAC, and those are, you know, because they're real hair and they're fancy. But this is optional. If you have oily skin, I don't think you really need to highlight. You have that natural dewiness. But if you want to highlight and make it look really glowy and soft, a fan brush makes it dummy proof to highlight. And I don't want to offend you because I know there's overly sensitive people, but if you're scared to highlight, this one makes it foolproof. It tells you exactly where the highlight goes and you can't go over or under. So if you're trying to get into it, a fan brush is definitely a must. Also, if you like the Nars Eda Brush, I think it's called Eda Brush, and you have the Hula Bronzer, girl, don't spend $35 more. It comes with it. This is basically the same exact thing. And this is, I think, natural hair as well. I think it's plant hair. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's the same exact thing, except it doesn't have the long handle. So, and I think all the Benefit blushes and brushes and bronzers come with that little brush. So no need to run out and buy that expensive $35 one. And let's move on to eyes. Obviously, if you're just getting into makeup, you're really not going to need tons and tons of eye brushes. You will probably need two. And the two that you need are a flat shader brush and a fluffy brush. So these two are my two brushes that I use every single time I do an eye look. This is the Fluffy 217, and this is basically just used to apply color to the crease and soften it out or blow out any colors in the corner. And then this one is my e.l.f. $1 brush from Target, and I use that to pack in color. You could even use this to smudge color in the lower lash line. Two must-haves. I have tried different fluffy brushes and I cannot like them at all. The MAC one is really expensive, but it really works. So, I don't know. Then we have a pencil brush, and all of these after this are optional. The pencil brush looks like this. This is an Ecotools, so the tip looks like a pencil. This is good for smudging in the lower lash line, or to put like a really dark color in the crease, or to do like the cut crease look, which is a really hard technique, and if you're just getting into makeup, I would not recommend it, but it's good to have a pencil brush on hand. If you learn how to use this one really well, you could totally get away with putting depth into your crease with this and not having to make the investment in this one, although these aren't expensive. My pencil brush is an Ecotools pencil brush. I think it was like $7. What else is optional? A smudger is optional. A smudger looks like this, and this is the accent brush by Real Techniques. I think it comes in a set. And of course it's used to smudge your lash line. You don't need a smudger, use a Q-tip. Like seriously, Q-tips are your best friend, so you don't need this brush. But if you want to have a brush collection, the smudger brush. Then an eyeliner brush, which comes in two different forms. You have an angled one, and then you have like a gel or pointy one. I'm trying to put them against my light skin so you could see what they look like. So this angled one is by Soho Beauty brand, which is available at Walmart or Walgreens, super cheap, like $2 or $3. This is also good for your eyebrows if you use a powder in your brows. I use a pencil, but if you use a powder, this is good for your eyebrows. This is good for eyeliner at the top or the bottom, and this is a gel liner. This gel liner brush came with my gel liner. Is that what it's called? The little pot? It came with it, so it was free. And this one's super cheap. And then I think the very last brush that is completely optional is a lip brush. If you're gonna do like a really deep red, or you're going to just be really careful, he's laughing at me, a really careful, really deep color, and you don't wanna like get it out or mess up, or you wanna clean up around your lips with concealer, this is a lip brush. Lip brushes come in so many different forms and prices and everything. This one is the Detail brush, and it's by Real Techniques. Hands down, my favorite brushes are definitely by Real Techniques. So those are my brush recommendations. I do have plenty of other brushes, but I do not use them. In fact, I have them put away in a box, in a drawer, under my desk. So you kind of just have to get used to playing with your face, how you like your makeup to look, and then you build your brush collection around that. So for example, I shared with you a foundation brush, a buffing brush, and a beauty sponge. I probably don't need all three. In fact, I could live and die the rest of my life with just the Beauty Blender because I hardly ever use the brushes. So find what you like first and then build your collection around that. My eyeshadow looks are usually pretty simple, like what I have today, and in order to get this look, I could literally just use the fluffy brush, because even the color that I have down here, I put it on with my ring finger. So, I mean, making the $1 investment in the e.l.f. shader brush is definitely worth it, but if that brush was like $30, I'd be like, no girl, don't do it. So that's it for my Makeup 101 lesson. I really hope you found this useful. I really hope it inspires you to either minimize your brush collection or add to it so you can say, maybe I need that brush. And that's it. I am sorry that I had this massive interruption, but I really hope it didn't stop you from learning and taking notes. And until next time, guys, this